we're going to go ahead and start a new pattern. Today we're going to do the New Horizons Girls Tanacross Cardi. It's a really great pattern for adults. I'm pattern hacking, and so I need to use less fabric, and to do that I thought, oh, I need to practice. And it's lovely having daughters because then I can use them as my models. And I got all different sizes, and I owe one a cape, and so I asked her, I said, hey, would you rather a Tanacross instead of a cape? And she said yes, so I'm running with that. And I already have her measurements, and so in my PC, I know it's flashing, I don't know how to do that, just starting this stuff out, so I'll get better as we go along. I have a whole file of all of my different patterns, so my PDF patterns. So I have Angela Wolf, Blank Slate, Berta, Callie Faye. So I have New Horizons, and so in here are all of my New Horizon patterns. And I want the Tanacross Cardi for girls, and to find out exactly what size I have to make for her. She's a little bit on the larger side, so I'm probably going to have to hack even that. I'll probably have to find a size that's closest to her and then blend a couple different sizes so that we can get it good. So I haven't printed this one out yet because it's the very first time for me making the Tanacross Cardi. So I'm going to go ahead and print that very first page so I can start making an envelope for it. I'm going to say the current page, and I always do in black and white, and I almost always need to replace toner cartridges or something, so they always look faded or whatnot, but I get the picture. And hopefully I have recycled paper, because as I've said in earlier videos, sometimes you print out a whole pattern of 100 pages and it's the wrong size, so then you have to start all over again. Well, those printer pages then get put back in so that we can use them over and over again, and if not, drawn on or whatever, for notepads and stuff. So on the very first, the other page I like to print gives me my fabric requirements and my fabric sizes, or for my sizes on the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and print that page also, so that it's always there and I don't have to worry about printing that page either. So I've figured out that I really want to do the size 16. The 16 is the largest size that you can do on this, because it goes all the way from a 18-inch doll all the way to a size 16. So 12 to 18 months, I think, is the smallest actual size that you can put on a child on this pattern. And so what we do is, now we know that we're going to do a size 16. So I use highlighters. Actually, they're not highlighters. They are these wonderful Tri Plus fine liners from Stettler. The only bad thing about these is they do bleed. So don't get these wet after. And what I do is, for each size that I actually trace out, I like to color them. It doesn't matter about the color, but I'll do each one a different color. And so before I even go to trace them with the medical tracing paper, I will go around the whole pattern and mark it as I said, I'm more of a drunken seamstress. I could get my rulers and really be accurate, but I do it this way, and I mark all of the notation for that size with that color. So just like this. And I'm going to go around and I am going to mark all of the pattern pieces with the size 16 with this color. So the next time I might come and do a size 8. Well, with the size 8, I'll go ahead and do orange. That way I know I've done that size. Hi, Mary Claire, I love you. Giving you some prayers. I know that I've done that size and that I need to go and get them out of one of the bags because that's where that is. And it also helps you when you're tracing with the paper, which I'm probably going to go ahead and do too. I'm going to push you down here. Sorry, there's my hand. So when I come through and I'm using my pencil, then I know exactly which one I should be doing because it's pink and I can see through, or it's orange and I can see through. That means when they get to the jumbled up messes, I can see exactly which line I should be tracing, because it does get rather confusing, especially on some of the adults that have a lot of pattern pieces to them. It can get really messy in some of the smaller areas, armholes, crotches. It all can get kind of fuzzy with the different sizings. So by doing it a different color for each one, I really get to see which lines I should be tracing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do pink on all the size 16, and I'm going to start tracing on my paper, and I'll be back. So I want to show you how it can look and how confusing it can all be if you don't have your under colored. It can just be hard to start seeing like which lines are going where. It's pretty easy with the 16 though on this one because it's the biggest one. So I'm just going with this outer. Just like this. And then don't forget to do all of the other little things that it's telling you to do. Where I'm hacking is above this point. So I'm actually going to end this right here because I'm going to have to piece another piece on top of this whole thing. But I want to go ahead and I want to note all of these things. So this is my grain line. You really want to make sure that you have that grain line correct. I usually only just write grain because then I know exactly. Note which one. This is the knee length. And this is, oh no, this is hip length. See? Stuff like that happens. That's why we use pencil. And this is the knee length. That was the knee length of a different one. So I always like to write the name of it. So this is a girl's Tanacross Cardi. I'll put New Horizon NH. I always put what it is. So this is the front bodice. I want to cut to, I'm going to put mirror because you want them to be a mirror image and not the same side, always put your seam allowance on your pattern piece, because it's really annoying to have to go and open up your computer because you forget what the seam allowance was, because different companies have different seam allowances. Sometimes they'll be a 1/2 inch, sometimes they'll be 3/8 inch, sometimes they're 5/8 inch. I really like 5/8 inch because then I can do a French seam with my stuff and it works really, really well. And they have allotted for a 1/2 inch hem. 1/2 inch hem. So I like to write down all of these things so that I know why they need to be written down. This is a buttonhole. And then you also have the button placements, which are over here, but that's going to be different because now we are going to adjust this whole upper piece so that we can have a hood. All right, be back. All right, so we're going to do a little hacking here. So this is what we're making. This is the girls' Tanacross. So cute. Love, love, love this. So this is the one I did for my adult one that I had. So I want a hood because hoods are good. So what I had to do is the regular pattern just has it stop at a cowl, right? So this buttonhole will go onto this button that's over here. And so it creates a cool drape. So let's, sorry, black space. We don't want block space. Sorry. All right, so here's mine. I love my Tanacross. All right, so I have to make it bigger, but it's out of a great fabric from Silk Road Trading, which is a great local fabric store. So this is how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to just kind of drape across and just, you know, hang down. And then it has buttons that you can attach here like this, right? Awesome. Love my Tanacross. Right? All right. But I needed a hood, right? Because hoods, love hoods. Because hoods are nice. Hoods are awesome, right? So, oh, love it. So cute. Pockets. We put pockets on ours. And, you know, so, but I didn't have this little piece right here, which I'm going to show you of in my pattern hack. But now it does, because I thought, no, all right, we need to have a little tuck right there so that it can tuck around our head. So that when we pull it back off, and we want to not have a hood on, sits nice, lovely. It doesn't flop down now, so I don't need a lining in it. If it flops all the way down, then you really need it lined because it looks like crap if you're looking at the inside of your garment, right? So this is lovely. All right, so how do we get this effect out of the Tanacross? Well, oh, I gotta take it back off. It's too tight in the arms. Now that I know that. That's why I'm doing a size 16 for Rose, and then I can tailor it down and we can work with it. I'm doing a sweater knit with her. So what I did with this one is this one ends here, right? Which just makes it flat across your back. So what I did, you have to have this here because that's your button that goes to the other side. So you need to have that. So that needs to stay the same, but it needs to come up for a hood, right? So I used my French curve and make my two different, I want it to sweep up and then I want it to sweep back. So I have to have a little bit of an S going on here. So that's what I did. But then when I took it out to a point here on this side, it would just stay open and flat, like kind of like with the cowl coming around my neck. So what you need to do is you need to make an up sweep back so that it actually makes a hood. So what I did is, I gotta bring it back down. So with it going out straight, it made it flat, it just didn't work. So what I did is I'm tucking back in this little portion, which then goes around your head and actually creates that closing hood. So the other thing we're also going to do is we're going to change a little bit of like button placement so that you can button it in two places instead of the one. But I think that this little tuck really takes care of a lot of the issues I was having with it. So now we have to translate this, the adult, to the youth pattern, right? So how are we going to do that? Well, looking at this, it's about the same size through the shoulders and stuff, because if you think about it, they're not much smaller than we are. And so I'm actually just going to go the same. So I knew that I had to come up 21 inches. That's going to give me a nice big hood. So I'm actually only going to do 20 inches on this one, because then I can still take off some if I need to take it off, but then I don't have to either. Take off too much for no reason. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the pattern that I've already done up, right? I'm going to take this little piece off. I have my paper scissors here. Save these pieces because there's little patterns that you have to do, little things. Don't waste anything. Alright, so I'm going to put this pattern exactly where it was, right? And I had made a little notch over here for the 12-18 months. So I know that this is my pattern down below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need two pieces. Should have done this a little differently. But I noticed that after I looked at the pattern, I did. You know what, we're going to go this way. I'm going to do this and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back and I have a piece of paper cut out here to extend this, because I had to do it in two different pieces. I should have done it a little bit differently, but it'll all work out in the end. So I want to go with the same basic shape as for the adult. I'm just going to shape it down just a little tiny bit more. So I have to tilt down for you a little bit more. Alright, so this is the shape that we're going to take on this one, so we have plenty of room on the paper. Alright. So we're coming from a little bit down. So I am going to put that mark and this mark, and then oh, that's not going to work. Yes, Okay, so now we'll get this out of the way. And we're going to come down just a little tiny bit and get that in there. Just like that, it'll make no big deal whatsoever. Make sure that this line is lined up, and then that'll come around. So I need to now tape this into place. It's a little trick that I learned is that if you, oh, sorry, hand in the face, sorry. If you put the tape on your clothes, I just use regular old Scotch tape. If you put it on your clothes first, it's so much easier to pull back off so that it doesn't, puts a little lint on there so that then if I have to move this now, I can pull this up and it's not going to really stick as badly because the lint of my clothes have just taken out a little bit of that. So I want it to be a little bit more. Just a little trick. Thank you, Terry Owens. She is very wonderful. Can't wait to take another class with her. So now I'm going to extend this line coming out from this one. I'm actually going to use the tools now because they're here, so I might as well. And I want to do this line here, which you can barely see, so I'm going to have to bring that back down again. And then we have this. So there's that little part there. Alright, so now we have to attach, remember, it has to swing this way first, right? Because we have to get it up. And kind of like that. We'll just put it kind of like that for right now. And then we have to swing it down from here. Right, so we're going to kind of swing it down. And then we've got to kind of blend it in. I think it's going to be more. And now we'll sweep her back out. I love a French curve. Looks so pretty. Okay. So now we have a nice sweep to our cape. I think I'm actually going to bring that out some more. Thinking about it. Right, more like that. Pretty. So then we have here where I'm going to move you down. Be with me. So here, let's see, the sweep starts coming back in about this point. So let's see where we're at for the curls. Because remember, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a curve to it, right? So let's go with like an arc like that, okay? That'll work. And then this is straight up to this point, whatever that point is. And then we'll just erase that out, this part. And blend this in. There we go. So a little bit of a point up there, and I think that's a good shape to start with, and then I can mess with this more as we're going along. So woohoo, let's get some fabric cut out. Hey, I got the Tanacross girls in front of me, and I'm still kind of hacking here and there. One of the things I don't like about it is that it tapers in on the back, and that kind of constricts those legs. And with a little girl, I wanted to kick back out a little bit so that she has lots of room for running and whatnot. And so what I've done is I've actually kind of set this fold out on the back lower section by 1.5 inches on the fold, so that's actually given me 3 extra inches in the back, and so that it gives just a little bit more room and more movement for this garment. I don't have to do that, but knowing who it's going on and knowing myself, I kick that out a little bit. When you're cutting this jersey, it's a bamboo jersey. This is what she decided on going with. It's beautiful. It's from fabric.com. Right now it feels a little rough, but that'll soften out in washes, I hope. Hoping so. It's a new fabric. I haven't worked with it before, so it's kind of an adventure. And so it's really lofty. So one of my tips with cutting into this is I like to pull my fabric, pull my rotary cutter instead of push. When I push, it bunches up all the fabric in front, and that's when I get little jagged edges. So I like to really put it down in, get a good bite, and then pull it along the cut seam, holding my paper, and it just slides so much nicer than if I push that cut. I like to use the rotary cutter with high loft fabrics because they seem to really change when you have them up and you're trying to cut the way that is. Now I need a new rotary cutter blade. I went to go put new one in and they fell on the floor, and it's now made a soft spot where they fell on all of them. There are 4 of them. So I have to hobble along for a long while with a blade that isn't fully good, I guess you could say. We're all a little hurt somewhere along the line, right? All right, so I got this cut out, and I've already tested a piece of it. So I have my serger all ready to go with this as soon as I get my stuff together. I like to go ahead and make the first 3/8 of an inch sew, and I do a zigzag stitch with that, set at 2.5 and about a half on the width, a zigzag stitch. That gives it appearance of a straight line, but it gives you that flexibility and stretch of a zigzag stitch. So that's what I do first, and then I go back and I finish it with the serger. So let's get busy. All right, so now we're gonna construct this thing. So there are 3 pieces to this pattern. So not many pieces. It's the fabric that's really expensive on this pattern, not the pattern itself, just in the means of there's not a lot of construction pieces to it. So we have the arm. I have to find everything here. This is the back. It's a little tricky the first time you do it, just the way they have it set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the armholes, and then we're going to do the back neck, and then we're going to do along the neck, right? So as you recall, I said I do a zigzag stitch with this. It's really, really, really narrow. So it's about a 1. So I put it on about a 1, and it's about 2.5 stitch length. Actually, I'm going to do more of like about 2.5. But less than 1 on my width, because I want it to look like a straight stitch. And if you go any much wider than a 1, even up to a 1, it looks jagged when you look at it. But if you do just a little tiny bit, it really works very well. So what we need is a 3/8 inch seam here. I don't like to use pins a lot. They get in the way. So I'm going to do a couple of stitch backwards, and then I'm going to come forward. This is a heavier knit, so I don't worry about it as much. If this was a lighter knit, I would hold my tails when I start, and I wouldn't go backwards, I would only go forwards. One of those little tricks with knits. Knits are hard to sew with. They're easy, but they can be a little tricky too, because they get you. Okay, so now we're going to go to the opposite side front, this piece, and find the shoulder for it. Here's the arms. So the shoulder's got to be up here. So now I'm doing right sides together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these 3/8 inch seams, and then I'm going to finish them off with the serger so that they look all pretty. And sometimes I don't. Like if it's just for me, I don't finish it. Just because it's a knit, it's not going to unravel, not this type of knit. If it was a different kind of knit, some will oh, what is that called? I don't remember. I mean, the last time I wore a pair of pantyhose, it'll come to me in my sleep tonight. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what they meant. So now we have to do the back neck. So here's our shoulders, right? This is, you're looking in the front of it. Wrong side out. I'm looking at the back. I have the shoulders. So now I'm looking at the shoulders. This here is actually the back neck. That's actually going to come up into the hood, right? So here's up to the hood. So I like to take the ends, both ends, and line them up nice and neat. Then I'm actually going to start with the hood part of it at 3/8 of an inch. Again, because it's this kind of knit, because I know I can, I'm going to just do a tack stitch real quick and then go. Now I'm going to grab the back, and then again in the center with it nice and light. I'm not going to do any pins at all, okay? I'm going to keep it nice and flat, and I'm going to kind of do this whole pivot while holding it just like this. Learned this technique from Janet Prey on one of her classes. God bless Janet Prey, because she rocks it. The Islander sewing system. And we're just going to kind of walk right around it, making sure that there are no puckers in the fabric. I'm going to come right up to my fingers. I'm going to let go. Again, I'm going to make sure that these 2 points match again, and bring these out. Hold it just like I did before. Straighten my fabric so that my edges are even. and go for it. Again. Alright, couple, just pack it in the, not a whole bunch, just enough to tack it in. Because if you have to seam rip it, it's awful. So don't give too much. Alright, so now we have this big hole, right? So now we're looking in the front of it. Got our sleeves on either side and a big hole. This is the back of your neck right here. So I'm going to finger press this hood part open like this. A couple seconds of just oil and heat in my hands. And then I'm going to stitch this back section closed with 3/8 seam. Usually gives me a little funk right here, but that's okay. We'll get that going. All right, so I'm going to line it up 3/8 inch. Tack. I like to stop it with my needle down. If you have a newer machine, it does that for you. I have a manual machine. Computer machines and they're lovely, but I do a lot of different kinds of sewing, and the computerized machines don't do real well with vinyl, I find. Or sunbrella. I like my heavy duty. Alright, so again, I'm gonna get on this side. So we can get this finished up. I like to pull my strings tight. I like to cut as I go. They go generally on the floor, but I'm going to try and be good. So now we have our hood, right, in the back and the front. So now we have to put in our sleeve. The sleeves are here. Again, I'm going to finger press this seam open. I'm not going to finish these seams, obviously. Actually, I could probably do it all the way across right now before I do this. So what I do, come on over here to the serger. Because this is now all the way, like, basically straight across. We are going to pop these stitches right here because I'm going to finish this up too. Just going to unhook these so I can bring it together. So I've done my seam, 3/8 of an inch. This I'm just going to hit both edges so that it closes them up. So my seam edge, I'm just going to use my seam ripper to finish that. So now I have, we're going to go a little bit more. This is good practice for me. So, here's your stitch, and then this just finishes off so that it looks all nice and neat. And when you look at it from the side, you're not going to be able to see any of that, but it looks nice and neat and finished on the inside, and I'll finish that even more so as we go along. But now I'm just going to run this across real quick. And so then that is done too. I need to find my other scissors. So the back neck is done and the hood is done. And now we can put in those sleeves. Reminding me how long I'm taking on all of it. You always want your seams to go to the back, so away from the front. So making sure that that seam stays going back that way, I will put a pin in here. Alright, so now with this, I'm going to come to the front. Just gonna, all right, no pins, Ma. Just that little bit of tug, making sure that the sleeve part that needs to be eased in is on the bottom, and making sure that nothing gets bunched up in there. Trying to stay at 3/8 of an inch. When I get almost there, I will go ahead and take out that pin so that if there's a little bit left over there, it doesn't create a bump. So here, I'm about 1.5 inches away. I will go ahead and take that out. hold on to it with my fingers right after that. I always find the second part of the sleeve is a little more tricky to get everything up in there. So you don't want to pull it, because if you pull it, it'll stretch it all out and it'll look awful. So don't pull it. Just kind of let it ease in itself. Especially with knits. They're funny that way. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the edges even with my underhand, and I'm really holding on to those two ends right where they should meet together. And we're almost there. And I should have a pretty perfectly eased in sleeve. There you go. See? You just got to make sure that there are no puckers as you're going around, and not to pull. That's like the big trick of it. So let's do the other one. If I can find it. There's so much fabric, and it's so expensive, but it's so pretty. It feels so good. Alright, so make sure again that your sleeve is going to the right way, so that's back this way. So again, I will pin it so that I know that that seam is going to the back. Otherwise, which way? Again, lining up the body and the sleeve head there. Okay. Couple back. Put my needle down in there. Alright. So, making sure it's so fascinating. Again, I'm going to pull this bottom out to make sure it's equal with the top, and it's much easier to get in here and to pull it. Just take your time. It's not a race. I mean, it is, but it's not, right? I'm a very slow. Okay, I'm about an inch away from that pin, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out here in a moment. I'm going to line up my ends first. And bring it up and in. Grab that bottom side. Line them up. Grab that bottom side. And it should be right there on the mark. Yay! I love when it happens. Because when it doesn't, you're always like, oh no. Usually you have to pull the whole sleeve back off. So look, another sleeve done, right? Quick, quick, quick. Now, I'm going to serge these and then I'll be back. So I got excited. I went ahead and serged the inside of the sleeves, and then I did the one side. I do it from the wrist to the armhole, through the armhole, and down the side of the garment. This is how I close up, I'd say 90% of the sleeves, any sleeve that I do. It just works well for me, and so that's the way I do it. So I got the other side done, and I got to the armhole on this one, and I set my needle, and I thought, oh, I forgot to press record on my thing, on the phone, right? So now you just go down the side of the garment. I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to serge both sides. And I'll talk to you in a little while. All right, so with any kind of fabric, after construction, during construction, like, the most important thing that you can do is press. Press, 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 press. I tell people this all the time. I have a couple of pressing tools I absolutely love. I've just got this one. This is so awesome. It's a half round. So it's a half rounded piece of wood. It's 18 inches long. So actually, I think it's more like 24 inches long. So that's, yes, it is 24 inches long. And this thing is so wonderful. It works just like your pressing boards, your clappers, and all that kind of stuff. I love this pressing tool, and of course this one, because you know this does more. I grab this more than I do this tool. But you like the wood because the wood absorbs the heat. I like this because you can do seams, and it doesn't crease on the other side of your fabric because of how the half-inch round works. It's just, it's magic, really it is. And then I also use my hand too. But for this, I'm basically just going to press everything just so it's nice and neat on the edges. Kind of sucks up all your stitches and sets them in there. It's kind of like sealing them up. I just think it makes everything nice and done. And sometimes do both sides, not always. For any rounded sections, any of your bust points and stuff like that, I'll definitely do that stuff on the ham. And then this one. And the other thing I have to press, I'm also going to press these open, and that's what I'll use this press board, this seam board for. So I'll put just like this, and I'll just hit it on this bottom side so that it's not, because if I hit it on this side, it's going to leave this whole indentation of this whole seam, and you don't really want that on your fabric. So just by hitting with a bunch of seam and then putting your hand on it to kind of cool it off real quick. Like this. And that board underneath absorbs a lot of that heat. And so now you got a really crisp looking seam compared to when it's not pressed. You can see the difference of how flat they lay. Like this is very wobbled, and this is nice and ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish pressing, and I'm going to fit it on my model and see what I have to change. All right, I'll catch y'all later. All right, so we have to put some snaps onto this Tanacross. So I just use a piece of thread, fold it in half through my needle with a little loop on the side. My mom taught me this trick. But for the thread, I'm gonna put some wax on it, because when you put wax on it, it makes the thread stronger, and so it actually aids in the construction of the garment. So I already put the other side where it's supposed to go, so I'm just gonna sew this one on really quick. So I know that I'm gonna end up with this one on the side, so I'm gonna do 2 more. That's a big bite though. I'm gonna undo that one. It's a little zealous there. Just a little bite. You don't need many threads to make it strong. Now it'll look better on the other side. Granted, on the other side of this, it's the inside of the garment, so you're never going to see it. So it doesn't really matter. Only you'll know, right? So I like to go around the outside into the next hole, and I'm just going to do 2 more there on that one. Sorry. I'm just going to make one around this way. Alright. Come around the outside. Guess I should have the camera over here. On this one, anyhow. Otherwise it's going to be backwards anyhow. I'm stopping the video and I'm going to change the camera angle around so you can see this. Not to mention, Luke's here to talk to me. Bye. Well, we'll see how this works. Because you really need to see how you have to come up through the snap here. So this is my next hole. Right, so I'm going to go around the outside and come in, taking as little bit of a stitch as I can, right? I mean, there's one,
I should have done this one over here the first time. Alright, so we're going to go around the outside. Come in. We're going to do it 2 more times. There's once. Once. Twice. Around the outside. Once. Don't lose the toes. Twice. Alright, and then this is the one we started on, right? And I said, oh, I'm not going to worry about it because I got to come back around to it. Well, now this is when I'm going to put the 2 more in this one and then tie off. There's my ones. And actually, now I'm going to tie off. See, because I have this right behind here, and I know it's already on the other side. So I'm going to come around. I'm going to get this back through here. I promise. Just a little more. Yes. Okay. So there's once. Pull that tight. Now I got to do it again. Right. And then come back through. There we go. All right, and then I like to go back up underneath, just across, and then cut my string. I like to give it a little bit of a tug against there so that hopefully it'll go in there and you won't see it at all. And so now I have a working snap, right? So now I'm going to put a button on top of this. I don't know what kind of finish I'm doing on this quite yet. We don't know what fabric we're going to use for the Lizzie cuff. It's a little thing so that you can put your thumbs through, right? This isn't the fabric that will actually be on here. So I want to wait to decide on the finish until I figure out what I'm going to do there. And then we decide what embroideries are going to go onto it, because it gets at least 3 embroideries too. So excited. She can try it on and wear it now though, because I just put these on for the time being. Yay! Y'all have a great night.